Have you ever had that sinking feeling that no matter how hard you try, things simply don't flow the way they should? I understand. I spent years believing that the answer was in doing more, trying harder, planning better, meditating deeper. I would wake before the sun to visualize my goals, fall asleep with positive affirmations echoing in my ears, and yet, life felt like a locked door standing before me. Opportunities slipped through my fingers, relationships crumbled, and that inner voice wouldn't stop whispering, "What am I doing wrong?" Perhaps you're in that place now, exhausted from trying, tired of forcing, desperate for a real change that doesn't require more effort than you've already applied. What if I told you there exists only one step, a single internal movement capable of reorganizing your entire reality? It's not another method, not another technique, not another spiritual practice to add to your already extensive list. In fact, it's the opposite of all that. It's something so simple and yet so profound that ancient masters like Manly P. Hall dedicated their lives to sharing this secret. A secret that isn't about doing, but about undoing. Not about conquering, but about surrendering. Not about controlling, but about allowing. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the only step necessary for life to begin reorganizing itself naturally around you. A step that has the power to dissolve blocks, align opportunities, and restore the natural flow of abundance in every area of your life. It's not magic, it's not a miracle, it's simply the deepest truth about how reality works. Prepare yourself to release the reins of control and discover the transformative power that has always been within your reach. The ancient mystery schools understood something that our modern world has forgotten in its obsession with action and achievement. They knew that reality is not something we force into submission through willpower and relentless effort, but rather a living field of consciousness that responds to our internal state of being. Manly Palmer Hall spent his life translating these sealed teachings, these protected mysteries, into language that modern seekers could understand. But even he knew that knowing about the truth and embodying the truth are two vastly different things. You can read 1,000 books on swimming, study every technique, memorize every movement, but until you release yourself into the water and trust its buoyancy, you will never truly swim. The knowledge that has been sealed, hidden, protected throughout the ages isn't a set of complex rituals or difficult practices. It's actually the recognition of something so obvious that we've looked past it our entire lives. The Hermetic principle of mentalism states that the all is mind, that the universe itself is mental in nature. But what does this really mean in the context of your daily struggles, your blocked manifestations, your feelings of being stuck despite all your spiritual work? Think about water for a moment. When water encounters an obstacle, it doesn't force its way through. It doesn't develop elaborate strategies or beat itself up for failing. Water simply flows around, over, under, finding every opening with effortless grace. And given enough time, this gentle, persistent flow can reshape mountains. Your consciousness works the same way, but somewhere along your journey you were taught to be like a battering ram instead of water. You were conditioned to believe that success requires struggle, that achievement demands sacrifice, that manifestation needs complex visualization techniques and perfect vibrational alignment. The market of spirituality has sold you the idea that you need to do more, be more, learn more before you can access the power to change your reality. But this is perhaps the greatest deception ever perpetuated on sincere seekers. The Taoist masters understood this perfectly when they spoke of Wu Wei, the principle of effortless action. This isn't about becoming passive or lazy. Wu Wei describes the supreme efficiency that comes from being in alignment with the natural flow of life itself. Imagine a skilled martial artist who doesn't meet force with force, but redirects energy with minimal movement, achieving maximum effect. This is the power available to you right now, not through learning something new, but through unlearning almost everything you've been taught about how reality works. The sealed knowledge that Hall spoke of revolves around a singular understanding. You are not separate from the reality you wish to change. This sounds simple, perhaps even obvious to your intellectual mind, but true comprehension of this truth rewrites everything. Right now, you likely operate from a paradigm where you are here and reality is out there. You are the subject trying to manipulate the object of your external circumstances. From this perspective, changing reality requires tremendous effort because you're essentially trying to push the entire universe around to match your preferences. It's exhausting, because you're working against the fundamental nature of how consciousness creates experience. In the Vedantic tradition, this illusion of separation is called Maya, the veil that obscures our recognition of unity. The Kabbalists spoke of it as the breaking of the vessels, the shattering that creates the appearance of multiplicity from the single unified source. Christian mystics described it as the fall from grace, the forgetting of our divine nature. Every tradition points to the same truth. What you experience as separation is itself the primary illusion, and all suffering stems from this root misunderstanding. When you truly grasp that consciousness is primary and matter is secondary, that mind precedes manifestation, that awareness shapes experience, everything shifts. But here's where most seekers get trapped again. They hear this truth and immediately try to use it. They think, great, now I'll use my consciousness to create what I want. But this is still operating from separation. This is still me trying to manipulate reality. The sealed knowledge goes deeper. It asks you to recognize that the you who wants to change reality is itself part of the dream, part of the illusion. Your ego, your personality, your individual self with all its desires and fears is not the creator. It's a creation. Manly Hall often referenced the Emerald Tablet's teaching, as above, so below. This isn't just poetic language. It describes the fractal nature of reality, where the same patterns repeat at every scale. Your individual consciousness is not separate from universal consciousness. It's a focal point, a particular expression, but not fundamentally different or divided. The wave is not separate from the ocean, even though it appears to have its own individual form and movement. So what is the one step, this single movement that changes everything? It's the relaxation of the separate self. It's the releasing of the one who thinks they need to do the changing. Right now, as you hear these words, there's a tension in your being. It's subtle, so constant that you've forgotten it's there, like the hum of electricity that you only notice when it suddenly stops. This tension is the continuous effort of maintaining the illusion of separation, of being a separate individual who needs to protect itself, improve itself, and control its circumstances to survive and thrive. Every technique you've learned, every practice you've adopted, every visualization and affirmation and meditation has been performed by this tense, separate self. And because it's performed from separation, it reinforces separation. You cannot think your way out of a paradigm created by thought. You cannot use effort to achieve effortlessness. You cannot become enlightened through the actions of the one who believes they are unenlightened. The alchemists encoded this understanding in their mysterious symbols and processes. When they spoke of turning lead into gold, they weren't talking about literal metals. Lead represented the heavy, dense consciousness of separation, of ego identification. Gold symbolized the illuminated awareness of our true nature. But notice they didn't describe adding something to the lead to make it gold. The process was about purification, about removing impurities, about revealing what was already there. Gold doesn't become gold. It's discovered beneath the layers of dross. Your true nature doesn't need to be achieved or created. It needs to be uncovered, remembered, recognized. Every spiritual practice at its deepest level isn't about gaining something but about removing the obscurations that prevent you from seeing what you already are. The Buddhist concept of Buddha nature teaches that every being is already enlightened. The work isn't to become enlightened but to recognize and abide in the enlightenment that is your fundamental nature. I'm going to pause here for a moment, because I sense that something important is happening as you listen to me. Perhaps you're feeling that lump in your throat, that emotion that rises when a deep truth touches something inside you. You've lived so long in this cycle of effort and disappointment, haven't you? How many times have you asked yourself in silence, why do I keep trying so hard and yet it still feels like I'm rowing against the current? You're not alone in this feeling. In fact, this is the exact moment where many give up, thinking perhaps they'll never manage to create the life they feel they deserve. I want you to do something simple but profoundly powerful now. Share in the comments, I release control and allow life to flow naturally through me. This isn't just a pretty phrase. It's a declaration to the universe, a shift in the energetic frequency you emit. And something extraordinary happens when we express this in words. First, you acknowledge this pattern in your own life. Second, you help countless other people who are reading the comments at this very moment. People who thought they were the only ones feeling this exhaustion from constant struggle. Your comment might be the light someone needed to see today, the confirmation that they're not alone, that there exists another path beyond control and effort. So please, share now. This small act of courage can be the first step toward a profound transformation, not just for you, but for everyone who will be touched by your words. Now let's go deeper into what actually happens when you take this step of releasing the separate self's control. First, understand that this isn't about becoming passive or giving up on your desires and dreams. The universe doesn't respond to passivity any more than it responds to force. Both are positions taken by the separate self. True surrender is neither active nor passive. It's a third position entirely, one that transcends that duality. When Jesus taught, "Thy will be done," he wasn't advocating for fatalistic resignation. He was pointing to an alignment with a deeper intelligence, a greater organizing principle that sees the whole picture, while your individual perspective can only see a tiny fragment. The Sufi mystics understood this when they spoke of fana, the annihilation of the false self. This sounds dramatic, even frightening to the ego. But what actually dissolves is not your existence, but your resistance. What disappears is not you, but the story of limitation you've been telling about yourself. In practical terms, here's what begins to happen. When you release the tight grip of control, when you stop trying to force reality into alignment with your egoic preferences, space opens up. This space is crucial. Right now, your consciousness is so full of your own agenda, your own plans, your own ideas of how things should be, that there's no room for anything unexpected to enter. It's like having your hands full of stones while complaining that no one is giving you diamonds. You have to drop the stones first. But the fear is, if I drop what I'm holding, if I let go of my plans and my control, won't everything fall apart? Won't I lose what little I have? This fear is the guardian at the threshold of transformation. Every initiate in the ancient mystery schools faced this guardian. It's the final test before breakthrough. The fear says, if you let go, you'll fall. But the truth that can only be discovered through direct experience is, when you let go, you don't fall. You fly. Reality is far more intelligent than your conscious mind. The organizing principle behind the movement of galaxies, the growth of flowers, the beating of your heart without your conscious control, is the same intelligence available to orchestrate your life. But it can't do so while you're white-knuckling the steering wheel, trying to micromanage every detail. Manly Hall wrote extensively about the concept of the higher self, that aspect of your being that exists beyond the personality, beyond the ego, connected to universal wisdom. Every decision you've agonized over, every path you've struggled to choose, every manifestation you've tried to force, your higher self already knows the optimal way forward. Not optimal according to your ego's limited preferences, but optimal for your soul's evolution, for your highest good, for the flowering of your deepest potential. When you release control, you're not abandoning responsibility for your life. You're finally taking true responsibility by acknowledging that the small self, the personality, the ego, is not equipped to run the show. Think about the last time something unexpected happened that at first seemed like a disaster, but looking back, you can see it was exactly what needed to happen. A job you didn't get that crushed you at the time, but if you had gotten it, you would have never been available for the opportunity that actually aligned with your purpose. A relationship that ended and broke your heart, but forced you to finally confront patterns you'd been avoiding for years. An illness that slowed you down and made you reevaluate what truly matters. We've all had these experiences, yet somehow we keep forgetting the lesson. We keep trying to control, to prevent the unexpected, to make life conform to our limited vision of what should happen. The sealed knowledge is teaching you to trust the intelligence of life itself. Not blind trust, not naive trust, but the deep recognition that comes from understanding how reality actually operates. The Hermetic principle of cause and effect teaches that nothing happens by chance, that law governs all phenomena. But here's the subtlety that most miss. You are not outside this law trying to manipulate it. You are an expression of it. When you align with this law, when you stop fighting against the current and start flowing with it, you don't lose your creative power. You actually access real creative power for the first time. Right now, what you think of as your power to create is mostly your power to interfere with the natural unfolding. It's like a gardener who keeps digging up seeds to check if they're growing, then wondering why nothing blooms. Your anxiety about whether things will work out, your constant need to control the how and when, your inability to rest in uncertainty, these are the very things preventing the manifestation you seek. Let me share something about the nature of desire that the mystery schools understood, but that gets lost in modern manifestation teachings. Your deepest desires, the authentic longings of your soul, are not random. They're not arbitrary preferences of your personality. They're actually the pull of your potential, calling you toward your actualization. The desire itself is evidence that the fulfillment is possible for you. But here's the key. The form you think the fulfillment should take is usually not the form it actually arrives in. Your ego has a very narrow, limited idea of what would make you happy, what would fulfill that desire. It usually involves specific circumstances, specific people, specific timelines, and when reality doesn't conform to these specifications, you feel like you're failing, like your manifestation isn't working, like you're doing something wrong. But the universe is trying to give you something far better than what your limited perspective can imagine. It's trying to give you the essence of what you desire, not necessarily the form. You want a relationship, and you have a picture in your mind of exactly what that should look like. But life is trying to bring you the essence of what you truly need: connection, love, companionship, growth, in a form that your conscious mind hasn't conceived yet. You want financial abundance, and you've decided it should come through a specific job or business. But the universe has paths to prosperity that you haven't even thought of, opportunities that your current mindset can't recognize. This is why control doesn't work. You're trying to force reality down a narrow path based on your limited knowledge, while life is trying to deliver something expansive based on infinite intelligence. The step of release, the movement of surrender, is simply getting your limited perspective out of the way so the greater intelligence can work. The Kabbalistic tree of life maps the descent of consciousness from the infinite into the finite, from the unmanifest into manifestation. At the top of the tree is Keter, the crown, pure, undifferentiated consciousness. As it descends through the various Sephiroth, it becomes increasingly defined, structured, limited, until at the bottom, it reaches Malkuth, the kingdom, physical reality. Most people live their entire lives in Malkuth, trying to rearrange the furniture of their physical circumstances to find happiness. But the power to change Malkuth doesn't exist in Malkuth. It exists in the higher Sephiroth, in the realms of consciousness that precede physical manifestation. When you release control at the level of the physical, when you stop trying to force outcomes, your awareness naturally ascends back up the tree. You begin to work with reality at the causal level, rather than the effect level. This is what the mystics mean by be in the world but not of the world. You participate fully in physical life, but your sense of self, your identity, your power, is rooted in the deeper dimensions of consciousness. Every moment you are choosing between two modes of being. One is the mode of the separate self, trying to control, to protect, to acquire, to achieve. This mode is characterized by tension, effort, anxiety, and exhaustion. The other mode is the mode of the true self, resting in its own nature, allowing life to move through it, participating in the cosmic dance without the burden of having to choreograph every step. This mode is characterized by ease, flow, synchronicity, and grace. You cannot be in both modes simultaneously. Every moment is a choice, usually unconscious, of which mode you're operating from. The sealed knowledge that changes your reality is simply this: you can choose to stop choosing the mode of separation. You can choose to rest as what you truly are rather than continuing to pretend to be what you think you should be. Notice right now, in this moment, the quality of your being. Are you tensed in anticipation, waiting for the technique, the method, the formula that will finally give you control over your reality? Or can you feel something relaxing, some subtle softening happening as you recognize that the struggle itself has been the problem? The ancient masters spoke in paradoxes because truth at this level cannot be captured in linear logic. They said things like, "Seek and you shall find, but seek not, and you have already found." How can both be true? Because the seeking that comes from lack, from separation, from the belief that you don't already have what you need, reinforces the very lack it's trying to overcome. But the seeking that comes from curiosity, from the joy of discovery, from already resting in fullness, this seeking is really an expression of what you are, not an attempt to become something you're not. The principle of polarity teaches that opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. Hot and cold are not separate things, but different points on the same spectrum of temperature. Love and fear, expansion and contraction, control and surrender. These two are polarities of the same spectrum. And here's the secret within the secret. You cannot get rid of one pole to reach the other. You cannot eliminate fear to find love. You cannot destroy the ego to discover the true self. What happens instead is transcendence. You rise to a level where both poles are recognized as movements within a greater wholeness. From that higher perspective, you stop fighting against one pole and grasping for the other. You recognize the play of consciousness within itself, the eternal dance of creation. When you were a child, you didn't think about how to grow. You didn't create elaborate visualization practices for becoming taller. You didn't worry whether you were growing fast enough or in the right direction. Growth happened naturally because you weren't interfering with it. Somewhere in your development into adulthood, you learned to interfere. You learned that natural unfolding couldn't be trusted, that you needed to take control, to make things happen through effort and will. And in learning this, you disconnected from the organic intelligence that was successfully growing your body, beating your heart, breathing your breath, without any conscious effort on your part. The invitation now is to reconnect with that intelligence, to remember that the same power growing trees and moving planets is the power that can organize your life, if you'll stop trying to do its job for it. This doesn't mean you become passive. Action still happens perhaps more effectively than ever, but the action comes from a different source. Instead of being driven by fear, by lack, by the need to control, action arises spontaneously from your connection to the flow of life itself. You'll find yourself in the right place at the right time without having orchestrated it. You'll say the right thing in a conversation without having rehearsed it. Opportunities will appear not because you chased them, but because you were available to receive them. This is what the mystics call grace, not something bestowed arbitrarily by an external deity, but the natural result of getting your limited self out of the way and allowing universal intelligence to express through you. The alchemical process of transformation involves several stages, and understanding them can help you navigate your own journey. The first stage, negredo, the blackening, is the breakdown of old structures, the death of the false self. This is often experienced as a dark night of the soul, where everything you thought you knew, everything you thought you were, seems to crumble. Many people are in this stage right now, feeling lost, confused, uncertain, but this isn't failure. It's the necessary preparation for transformation. You cannot put new wine in old wineskins. The old container of your limited self-concept must break apart before the new can emerge. The second stage, albedo, the whitening, is purification. Here, what's essential is separated from what's extraneous. You begin to see clearly what's really you and what's just conditioning, programming, borrowed beliefs. The third stage, citrinitas, the yellowing, is the dawning of new understanding, the first light of awareness. And finally, rubedo, the reddening, is integration, where the transformation becomes permanent, embodied, lived. These stages don't happen in a neat, linear sequence. You might cycle through them multiple times, each time at a deeper level. But knowing you're in a process, that what feels like falling apart is actually coming together at a higher level of organization, can help you trust what's happening. Throughout history, those who've undergone profound spiritual transformation describe a moment of letting go, a surrender so complete that the separate self with all its agendas simply relaxes its grip. In that relaxation, in that space of not knowing, not controlling, not trying, something else emerges. Not something new that wasn't there before, but something eternal that was always present but obscured. This is why it's called realization, remembering, recognition. You're not creating a new self. You're discovering what you've always been beneath the costume of personhood. Manly Hall dedicated his life to preserving and transmitting these teachings because he understood that humanity was losing touch with its spiritual roots, becoming trapped in materialism and superficial existence. But he also knew that the truth can never be completely lost, because it's woven into the fabric of being itself. Every sincere seeker eventually stumbles upon it, perhaps dressed in different language, different symbols, different cultural contexts, but pointing to the same wordless recognition. Right now, even as you hear these words, the transformation is already happening. Not because the words themselves have power, but because they're pointing your attention towards something you already know in your depths. They're creating a permission structure for you to stop fighting, to stop forcing, to simply be. And in that being, in that allowing, in that surrender of the one who thinks they need to figure it all out and make it all happen, your true nature shines through. And your true nature is not separate from the creative intelligence of the universe. It is that intelligence, temporarily pretending to be limited, playing at being small, exploring the experience of constraint. But the game can be exhausting when you forget it's a game, when you believe the role is all you are. The sealed knowledge simply reminds you, you're not the character in the play. You're the awareness watching the play. And from that recognition, everything changes. This understanding transforms your relationship with everything. With work, you stop trying to force success and instead allow your natural gifts to express themselves. With relationships, you stop trying to make people be what you need them to be and instead appreciate what they actually are. With money, you stop grasping and start receiving. With health, you stop fighting your body and start listening to its wisdom. With spirituality, you stop seeking some future enlightenment and recognize the completeness of this present moment. None of this means you become passive or indifferent. If anything, you become more engaged, more present, more alive. But the quality of your engagement shifts from effortful striving to effortless expression. The teaching is complete, not because I've given you all the information, but because I've pointed you back to yourself. The only teacher that can truly guide you is your own direct experience of what happens when you stop, when you let go, when you allow. Every ancient text, every mystical teaching, every wisdom tradition is trying to get you to conduct this experiment in your own consciousness. Don't believe these words. Test them. The next time you notice yourself trying to control something, tense with anxiety about an outcome, see what happens when you consciously choose to release that grip, not to give up on what you want, but to trust that the intelligence that created you knows how to guide you toward your highest good. Notice what shifts. Notice what becomes possible when you're not blocking it with your agenda. As we come to the end of our time together, I want you to understand something crucial. This isn't just information to think about. It's an invitation to a different way of being. Every moment offers you this choice. Contract into the separate self with all its fears and its need to control, or expand into your true nature with its inherent trust in the unfolding of life. Neither choice is wrong. Both are part of the human experience, but one leads to suffering and the other leads to peace. One requires constant effort to maintain, and the other is effortless because it's what you actually are when you stop pretending to be something else. The sealed knowledge that Hall spent his life revealing wasn't hidden to keep people in ignorance. It was protected because those who weren't ready would misuse it, would try to use it as another technique for the ego to grasp more control. But when you're ready, when you've tried everything else and finally exhausted yourself in the effort, the teaching reveals itself as beautifully simple. Stop trying so hard. Stop fighting reality. Stop resisting what is, not because you're giving up, but because you're finally surrendering to something far greater than your limited self could ever conceive. You are not, and have never been, separate from the source of all creation. The power that moves through all things moves through you. When you stop blocking it with your resistance, when you stop redirecting it with your fear-based agendas, it flows through you with perfect intelligence, organizing your life in ways your conscious mind could never orchestrate. This is the one step. This is the sealed knowledge. This is the way reality changes when you stop trying to change it and simply allow yourself to be transformed by the recognition of what you've always been. Not another person to become, not another level to reach, not another practice to perfect. Just the simple, profound, revolutionary act of relaxing into your own true nature and watching as life reorganizes itself around that authenticity. If something within you resonated with these words, if you felt that small spark of recognition in the depths of your soul, don't let this moment slip away. This wasn't just another coincidence on your path. The fact that you're here now hearing these words is a signal of your readiness to awaken to a deeper truth about life. If you're tired of struggling, of forcing, of trying to control every detail only to watch your efforts dissolve like sand through your fingers, this channel exists for you. Not as another source of complex spiritual techniques or practices that only add more weight to your journey, but as a space of remembrance, of return to the simplicity that the system made you forget. By subscribing, you're not just following a channel, You're declaring to the universe your willingness to release the reins of control and open space for life to flow naturally through you. Every video we share here is like a mirror for your own inner wisdom, a gentle reminder of truths your soul already knows but your conditioned mind may have forgotten. Also, activate the notification bell, not because we want to increase views, but because the moments these messages reach you are rarely accidental. Often the video that appears in your feed is exactly the message your soul was seeking in that moment. Share this with someone you feel is going through this same inner process of searching, someone who might be on the edge of this awakening. Sometimes all we need is a word, a different perspective, for our entire reality to reconfigure itself. And remember, you were never alone on this journey. We are many, walking side by side, rediscovering together what it means to live in harmony with the nature of reality, instead of fighting against it. Until our next meeting, allow yourself to breathe, allow yourself to be, allow yourself to simply exist without the burden of having to fix, control, or improve. You are already complete. You are already enough. You are already everything you need to be.